Designing Women was a very popular show. However, aside from that, an even more famous person appeared on the show. Delta Burke is the subject at hand. When she was on TV, she was one of the brightest stars in the industry. Suzanne Sugarbaker was a fan favorite in Designing Women. The show's devoted audience adored Suzanne, this clever child with a feral streak. For those who watched the show, that was an unforgettable experience, to the point that Burke got famous all over the place in the 80s and 90s. Fans didn't, however, have an exhaustive understanding of her. Delta Burke is more than just the persona she portrays. Unlike her on-screen counterpart, her real life was filled with hardships, both in her personal life and in her career. And it is the subject of our video for the day: the untold tale of Delta Burke and her tragic end. Alright, let's begin. The Florida city of Orlando is the site of Delta Burke's birth on July 30th, 1956. She has a mother who raised her alone. Jean, her mother, eventually wed Frederick Burke, a real estate agent located in Orlando. A generous man, Frederick took Delta in as his own. It may come as a surprise to hear that Delta has no idea who her biological father is. That gives us a fascinating and tragic glimpse into her private life. Jean and Frederick are parents to 3 children, the first of whom is Delta. Jennifer is her little sister, while Jonathan is her younger brother. From the start, Delta stood out as an exceptionally talented kid. Colonial High School admitted her, and by the time she graduated in 1974, her classmates had already declared her the most likely to succeed among her class. I guess that was clear. She was brilliant, and in 1972 she went one step further by winning a beauty pageant put on by the Orlando Fire Department. The Miss Flame title wasn't the end for Delta either. She desired more. Therefore, she competed for and ultimately became the state's Miss Flame. Terrific, isn't it? Hold on a second, because this video has a lot more information about her coming up. Her favorites aren't the accomplishments we listed earlier, though. Near the conclusion of her final year of high school, she had her favorite and most memorable one. The 1974 Miss Florida title was eventually won by Delta. Because she changed the course of history that same day, it stands out as her greatest accomplishment. At the tender age of 18, Delta became the first female to ever hold the honor. Once she was named Miss Florida, a plethora of incredible chances began to flood her life. A scholarship was bestowed upon her by the Miss America organization. She enrolled in the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art with the support of this scholarship. The turning point in her story came when she got into this academy. She gained fame after being Miss Florida in 1974 and went on to star in the hit ABC sitcom Bozo the Clown. Orlando, where she grew up, was the setting for Bozo the Clown. She had a banner year in 1974, featuring not only her music but also the World Football League Bowl. Louis Bice recorded her while she was Miss Florida there. An episode of 2001's Lost Treasures of NFL Films included the footage's premiere. For admirers, it brought back memories of Delta as a young budding actress on the cusp of her big break in television. It happened with the Western miniseries The Chisholms on CBS. Bonnie Sue Chisholm was portrayed by Delta. The role of Kathleen Beck in the sitcom Filthy Rich was her next opportunity to showcase her comedic chops. Kathleen embodied the traits of an ambitious and bright young widow. The premiere of the show was in 1982. Following that, she was a football team owner named Diane Barrow on the TV series First and 10 from 1984 until 1986. She proved that she is a gifted actor who can adapt to any part thanks to these parts, which greatly impacted her acting career. Delta Burke was about to become a television legend in 1986 when she landed a part that would cement her place in history. Designing Women, a CBS comedy series, featured Suzanne Sugarbaker. There are 2 reasons why she was deserving of this role. She made the difficult decision to leave the show she was performing in at the time, and secondly, she was a phenomenal performer. The program The First and 10th, the creator of Designing Women, Linda Bloodworth Thomason, had previously collaborated with Delta on the show Filthy Rich. The four female co-owners of an Atlanta interior design firm were the center of the sitcom Filthy Rich. Burke was among the front-runners. Dixie Carter was also present with Delta. Designing Women also included Dixie in a leading role. Things weren't this way when Designing Women initially aired, but today we know that the show was a hit with viewers. Beginning on a shaky note, the first season bombed due to dismal ratings, which led to a temporary cancellation. The show's destiny was altered in 1989 when it became successful after pairing with Murphy Brown. Burke was widely acclaimed and quickly rose to stardom. 2 primetime Emmy nods in a row for leading actress in a comedy series were hers, thanks to the beloved character Suzanne Sugarbaker. In that show, no other female lead ever went to such lengths. This distinction was bestowed to no one other except Burke. Just because this happened doesn't imply the other actresses weren't good. An actress named Alice Ghostly, who played Bernice Clifton on the show, was nominated for a Supporting Actress Award in 1992. Many people were surprised by Burke's abrupt departure from the show, even though she was popular when she was on it. Delta Burke, who played Suzanne Sugarbaker for 5 seasons on the show, finally spoke out about her abrupt exit from the role at the age of 67. It was widely reported that her departure in 1991 was due to a disagreement she had with the show's creator, Linda Bloodworth Thomason. Burke reminisces about the psychological abuse she endured at the hands of Linda and Harry Thompson. Things got ugly quickly. However, Burke had already considered leaving the program before she ultimately did so. We can discuss that. There was pure excitement in Burke's heart when she first appeared on the show. She was incredibly enthusiastic about her role and the rest of the cast on the show. However, changes began to take place in the background as time passed. Although Burke hasn't divulged the details, she did drop a hint. It was too much to manage, what with this and all the other stress and pressure she brought. Burke remembers that she wished she could escape but was denied her wish. Further details of Delta's friendship with Beautiful Women founder Linda, as well as her frustration, are revealed. They are already collaborating, as you are aware. Still, feelings between Burke and Linda were mixed. Her weight was a major factor in the remarks and vitriol she received, which ultimately led her to leave. This is an area where Burke felt vulnerable. She admits she was ill-equipped to handle the cruel comments others were making about her weight gain. The comments were really disgusting, with some fans going so far as to physically grab Burke's coat and pass along a vile remark, while others claimed that Burke was pregnant. "Shall we have a look at your weight?" That is his exact wording. It would break anyone. And Burke was never alone in dealing with that. Her devoted followers frequently berated her for being overweight. Critique was nothing new to her, but this was beyond her capacity to manage. Burke recollects that when the stakes were higher on stage, her mood shifted dramatically. She recalls that her initial goal during her time in Hollywood was to become as famous as possible and receive as much attention as possible. Then something changed. Despite all the hatred, she wishes she could turn back the clock to before the bad vibes began. Burke had a breakdown and ended up in the hospital because of how deep it was. This followed her nominations for an Emmy. The excitement of receiving nominations triumphed over the stress she was under. Delta discussed her resignation from the show in a 1990 Entertainment Tonight broadcast. The set settings and working circumstances, she said, were terrible. The makers had to physically barricade the doors so that no performer could leave the set because the shift was so intense and went on for about 15 hours every day. More than that, she and Burke's close friend Dixie Carter had a heated argument. Incidentally, Dixie had a role in the program. When Burke wed Gerald McCraney, she was also a bridesmaid. During this argument, Dixie sided with the manufacturers, which led to their breakup. In 1991, by the time Designing Women's 5th season was up, Burke had already been fired due to her strained relationship with Dixie and the show's producers. Are you still thinking about Burke's battle to lose weight? It was devastating for her, and she descended into a dark place as a result. What transpired will shock you. Do you remember a time when you felt vulnerable and wished you could take action? It was our collective right, but it can twist and turn in strange ways at times. Delta Burke experienced that exact thing. She finally had enough of the media and fans' trolls and decided to take action. Before she started designing women, she was a victim of trolls and backlash, right? She had the experience while filming Filthy Rich. While Burke was a student at a London acting school, a doctor gave her a diet pill. Her heart rate was affected by the negative effects of the medicines. However, Burke disregarded them in her pursuit of Hollywood acceptance. She learned that the medications in question were unlawful when she returned to the United States and began looking for them. But Burke wanted to reduce weight badly and was in a desperate state. Someone she knew from Filthy Rich suggested she check out Black Beauties, so she did. Furthermore, this was against the law. Regardless, Burke made sure to take these first thing in the morning every day. However, her body developed a tolerance to them, just like any other drug. Consequently, they ceased to have any effect. A buddy of hers from Filthy Rich suggested a more potent alternative. There was crystal meth in that. However, crystal meth was not well liked during that period. As a result, Burke was completely unprepared for the situation. She learned how to utilize it from a coworker. The approach involved chopping it up and snorting it. Burke stated categorically that she would not snort. Therefore, she began to take it with a glass of cranberry juice. It was dissolved in juice by Burke, combined and then consumed. In addition, she starved herself for days in an effort to shed some pounds. And yet, despite your best efforts, what did you think happened? There was no change. Still, she was the target of many trolls and hate comments. People thought she was overweight. Some have commented that she had enormous butts or legs. But now that Burke is thinking about it all, she thinks she shouldn't have been so self-conscious because she looked like a goddess when she was younger. Burke received an offer for her own show in 1992. The show was named Delta, and Burke portrayed a country music hopeful wanting to break through. Burke was an exceptional actress who gave her all to every part she took on. Everything else was the same. This one required her to get a blonde wash. Her commitment to her profession is evident in this. There was just one season of the show, though, and it was terminated. Do you recall the incident where Burke and the creator of the show about women's fashion had an argument? So in 1995, after making amends, she reprised her role as the iconic Suzanne Sugarbaker. However, this time it was for Women of the House, a spin-off series about female designers. As with the previous series, this one ended far too soon. Do you recall Dixie? Betrayed her friend. It took them over a year to finally put an end to their feud. In the end, though, they reunited for Burke's guest appearance on Family Law. As a point of information, Dixie had a regular role in Family Law. Burke kept proving herself throughout the years by starring in a slew of TV movies. What Women Want, one of Burke's most famous films, was released in the year 2000. She co-starred with Mel Gibson in this film. At the same time, Burke was dealing with a difficult period in her life after receiving the diabetes diagnosis. She co-starred with David Alan Grier on the 2000 comedy Dag. She found that losing weight was no easy task. However, her diabetes made it more difficult this time. Burke was not just a movie and TV guy. In 2003, she also had her Broadway debut. She portrayed the character of Mrs. Mears in the musical Thoroughly Modern Millie. For this part, Burke wasn't originally considered. Terry Burrell and Harriet Harris had previously played this part. Burke remained in the job until February 2024, when her friend Dixie Carter succeeded her. Following this, Burke appeared in yet another Broadway staging of Steel Magnolias, this time as Truvy. In 2005, she had a run that lasted 4 months from April to July. Despite her busy Broadway schedule, Burke never lost enthusiasm in her TV career. Her role as Bella Horowitz in Boston Legal was her return to television. Burke appeared in the 2008 film Bridal Fever, which was released in February of that year. Afterwards, in March 2012, Counterculture offered Burke a post. Production was interrupted after she had a serious fall and wounded herself while filming. Regrettably, it never recovered. That concludes the great career of the brilliant Delta Burke. Now we can go on to her private life. What she is doing at the moment will also be revealed to you. Delta tied the knot with her soulmate. On May 28, 1989, Gerald McCraney passed away. What a remarkable man. Do you recall her struggle with drug addiction and weight loss? From that point on, McCraney has been her constant companion. During her lowest points, he was by her side. And he was there for her whenever she needed someone to lean on, making even the worst of situations bearable. For all time, Burke will be thankful to him. Gerald, she revealed, loved her just the way she was. Gerald, she says, was the only one in her family who never criticized her based on her looks, unlike her mother and grandmother. What matters most to her, according to Burke, is that he never gave a hoot about her appearance. Gerald does have children from a previous marriage, but Burke and Gerald do not have any children of their own. While McCraney and Burke currently call Los Angeles, California home, they do have properties in New Orleans, Telluride, Colorado, Louisiana, and Colorado. Burke's struggle with diabetes progressed significantly. Currently, she is openly dealing with type 2 diabetes. On top of being a fantastic actor, Burke is a strong supporter of LGBT rights. This is evident from her numerous past and present collaborations with Del Shores on projects such as Southern Baptist Sissies and Sordid Lives. The dramatist and screenwriter Del identifies as gay. Leslie Jordan, a gay actor, was also in the works to join her on the Nashville talk show. The show's producers, however, were concerned that the conservative audience could be offended by the coming content. Consequently, neither Burke nor Leslie were invited. She began advocating for the LGBTQ community while she was a student at London's prestigious acting school, in case you were wondering when that was. Jennifer, her sister, encouraged her to give back to the neighborhood. Lesbians are true to Jennifer's identity. Burke has dabbled in acting, fashion, and design in addition to her work as an outspoken advocate for the LGBT community. She runs a successful New York City business under the name Delta Burke Design. In Collins, Mississippi, Burke and her husband also run an antique shop. It follows that Burke is also involved in the business world. Delving into her private life reveals that she is extremely candid about her battle with compulsive hoarding. The unhealthy attachment to material possessions is known as compulsive hoarding, an unhealthy preoccupation with one's own affairs. As an act of self-sufficiency, Burke seeks help from a therapist. She reminisces about the time when her personal possessions filled 27 storage containers. And with that, I leave you. Delta Burke experienced that in reality. Anyone would do well to take heart from her story, which exemplifies tenacity and perseverance in the face of adversity. I was wondering which Delta Burke moment was your favorite? Please share your thoughts in the space provided. Your time here is appreciated, and we'll see you in the future video.